September 4th, 2018. A rumor that one of my neighbors had had an accident was running through all of the neighborhood. I couldn't believe when they told me who it was, but suddenly I realized everything we could avoid if we all made a habit of wearing a seatbelt. It all started when my friend Fabiola experienced her first serious car accident. She swerved off the road to avoid a head-on collision with another car, but it didn't help. Her car rolled over and over and struck with a large tree. She was not wearing a seatbelt. In the process of being thrown back and forth to the car, she broke her hip, one of her legs, and cracked 3 ribs, which resulted in a punctured lung, massive internal bleeding. When they got her to the hospital, her blood pressure was down from a normal 120/70 to 50/30 as a result of all of the internal and external bleeding and as a result of shock. The doctors waited more than 24 hours to do surgery to repair her hip because they all thought she was not going to survive all of her other injuries. Thanks God she survived, and now, almost 3 months later, she's finally home. Though she will be walking around for the rest of her life with a piece of metal this long in his leg. And she's not allowed to do any activities that require running. All that pain and suffering could have been avoided if only she had been in the habit of wearing a seatbelt. But she wasn't in that habit. And I know from a class survey that 40% of you do not usually wear a seatbelt. And even worse, 70% of you do not always wear one. Yet the Land Traffic Investigations Division in El Salvador says that each person stands a 1 in 3 chance of being in a serious car accident in his or her life. So we can possibly predict that 1/3 of you will be in a serious car accident at some point. And it may sound corny, but I mean it. And I'm going to say it. My friend doesn't want what happened to her to happen to any of us. So I'm going to talk to you about wearing seatbelts. First, I'm going to tell you the way you will be protected by wearing a seatbelt. Then I'm going to look at some reasons why people don't wear seatbelts and the problems with those reasons. And after I've given you the evidence, I will ask you all to make a habit of wearing seatbelts. So first, how will you be protected by wearing a seatbelt? Well, the traffic division in El Salvador says if you are in a car accident and are not wearing a seatbelt, you are then 4 times more likely to be killed than if you are wearing one. Furthermore, consider this. Between January 1st of this year and October 25th, there were 7,420 accidents that caused 690 deaths and more than 7,400 injured. According to all of this, 59 accidents occur nationwide every day in our country. The Land Traffic Investigation Divisions, the Traffic Division, and the Vice Ministry of Transportation here in El Salvador all says that deaths would decrease from 18,320 to 10,000 annually if everyone wore seatbelts. But why is this true? What does a seatbelt do to protect you? Well, in a head-on collision, which is usually the worst type, your body will be thrown forward into the steering wheel, into the dashboard, or through the windshield with an incredible force. Imagine falling headfirst from the top of a three-story building. The force with which you will land on the ground is equal to the force with which you will be thrown forward in a 30-mile-per-hour collision. But a seatbelt will absorb that force and prevent you from slamming into the interior of the car. In my friend's experience, there is little doubt that a seatbelt would have minimized her injuries. I looked at the pictures of the car, and the car was totaled, but the two front seats and the entire driving compartment were completely intact. I have to believe that if she had been strapped to that seat, she would have walked away from that accident with minor bruises. But remember, I used the word if she had worn a seatbelt. So the evidence is strongly in favor of wearing seatbelts. That brings me to the next question. Why don't people wear seatbelts? People say that in an accident they would rather be thrown free of the car, or at least be able to get out of the car in case of fire or submersion in water. Well, according to the Vice Ministry of Transportation, accidents involving fire or submersion make up 1 out of every 200 auto accidents. Furthermore, you are more likely to get out of the car if you are wearing a seatbelt, because you are more likely to be conscious and not seriously injured. And with regard to be thrown out of the car, the Land Traffic Investigations Division says that you are 25 times more likely to be killed if you are thrown out of the car, because you can be thrown onto hard pavement, you can be thrown into stationary objects, or stopped by other cars. Clearly, you are safer strapped in than being thrown around. The other main reason why people don't wear seatbelts is that they are uncomfortable and they restrict movement. Now, if this is your reason for not wearing a seatbelt, let me ask you to do something right now. Imagine in your mind a two-side scale. On one side of the scale, put the value that you place on being completely comfortable while driving. On the other side of the scale, put the value that you place on your life and your health. Which side is heavier? If your life and health mean more to you, then it only makes sense to wear a seatbelt. So, I'm here to ask you all to make a habit of wearing a seatbelt. Statistics are so simple. Chances are about that 1/3 of you will be in a serious auto accident at some time in your life. And if you are in an accident, you are 4 times more likely to be killed if you are not wearing a seatbelt than if you are wearing one. So if you think you're safer not wearing a seatbelt, you are betting against heavy odds. And if you still won't wear a seatbelt because it may be inconvenient or uncomfortable, then you're placing your momentary comfort ahead of your life and your health. So tell yourself that you're going to make a habit of wearing seatbelts. Then do it! There's nothing my friend Fabiola can do about her accident now. And I bet she doesn't plan to go around for the rest of her life kicking herself because she didn't wear a seatbelt that day. What's really important is that she learned something from the experience. She's pretty sure now she's going to wear a seatbelt every single time she rides in a car, and I'm hoping that you will do the same in case you haven't already. She will never be able to play any sports or to do many other things that she used to, but she's home now, and at least she feels much better. There's still plenty of recovery process and therapies yet to come. but she was a lot luckier than more than 1,132 dead people as a result of car accidents in our country up to now. She's also expecting that you and me one day could make a habit of wearing seatbelts.